Welcome to the Mom Brain Masterclass. I'm so grateful you're here. Today, we're going to go through some powerful strategies for anxiety and overwhelm and burnout. And before we really get into the content, I thought it'd be good to talk about some of the signs of nervous system dysregulation and just have an understanding that none of you are alone if you're experiencing these different signs of nervous system dysregulation. Dysregulation is so common that I think there's become a myth that experiencing a lot of these things are actually normal. They're either just parts of our personality or they're just things that we've, resigned to the fact that we're just going to feel this way. But it doesn't have to be that way. And that is what I want to share with you today, is that none of this stuff here on the screen now is normal. It's not, you don't have to live with this. I'm going to give you tools and I'm going to give you resources so that you can shift out of these states and really start to heal your body and your nervous system so you can experience whatever it is that you are desiring to experience. So before we start, I would love it if all of you guys that are here live on the chat, those of you who are watching the recording, take a second, go through this list, and I would love it if you would count which of these signs of nervous system dysregulation you have experienced either recently or in the past. And just do a count and then drop that count in the chat. And I'm not doing this to call you guys out. I'm not doing this, to put anyone on the spot, but I'm just doing it so that you can all see that there are so many women that we can link arms together, that we're going through the same stuff. And as we work through healing and as we work through growth, we're not the only ones. There's not anything wrong or anything broken. Everyone is experiencing these signs of nervous system dysregulation. It's really another kind of pandemic. 17, yeah, absolutely. 18, yeah. And I hear you guys, ouch, yikes. I hear you, it's exhausting. And I know it can be kind of jarring when you look at these things and be like, man, no wonder I'm tired, right? No wonder, yeah, exactly, a face palm. I get you, I feel you. So you're not alone. And the good news is that you were not created, right? God did not create you to live with all of this stuff. So there's hope for you. He was so gentle with me and teaching me and revealing ways that I could heal my body and heal my nervous system so I could walk in my calling. So I want to share that a little bit with you guys. And I want you just to know that it's available for you too. So a little bit about me and who I am. My name is Michelle Grosser. I am a mom. These are my two daughters here. This is a picture from last year, but Amory, my oldest, is now 6, and Ashton, my 4-year-old. And that's my husband, Jeff. We've been married. This year we'll make 14 years this summer. And that's my family. For the better part of the last decade, I have been a trial attorney. So I've been in the courtroom litigating lawsuits, a lot of work around suing insurance companies. And for 3 or 4 years, back when my girls were really little, when I was pregnant, and then when they were really little, I was also a law professor. And I say all that to say, my life has changed in so many ways. Now I'm doing this. Now my husband and I pastor a church here in Miami that is growing, and it's so active and it's beautiful. But there's a lot on my plate still. I'm still practicing law. I'm doing coaching. This is the work that I'm so passionate about. But there was a time, especially when my girls were really little, that I would bring them to the office. I remember nursing them while on conference calls. And I was just so depleted. I was just so burnt out. I knew that wasn't healthy. I knew that that's not how I was supposed to be living. I felt like I was always irritable, always on edge. I was trying to suppress all this stuff so I could show up as like the strong or happy-go-lucky or positive or all of this stuff that we tell ourselves we have to be. But what happens, and what happened to me when we start to suppress these things that we're feeling, is it seeps out and it leaks out. And all of a sudden, it's a snide comment to Jeff, or it's I'm snapping at my kids, or it's, one email can set me off. And I'm so grateful that a few years ago, I decided to invest in myself, and I decided to really go all in my healing and learning about my nervous system. And I hired incredible coaches, and I invested in an amazing program. And I was able to really, through all of those resources, I was able to heal in so many ways. And now today I can hold all this space and I can do all these things that I'm doing, right? Be a mom, be a wife, run a law firm, run a coaching practice, have a podcast, pastor a church, without it causing me to flip into a state of dysregulation. And I can tell you guys, 5 years ago, there's no way. Yeah, Carrie, you're describing my life right now. 5 years ago, there was no way. There's no way I would have been able to do that. I know it. I would have just lost my mind. I would have been constantly overwhelmed. But because I've been able to expand my capacity, and I'm going to teach you guys how that works today, expand my capacity, I can do more without feeling stressed out, without feeling overwhelmed, without getting burnt out. So I mentioned the podcast. I'm also the host of the Calm Mom podcast. If you guys haven't listened yet, you can find it wherever you listen to your podcast. It's all about nervous system regulation, equipping ambitious and high achieving women through anxiety, overwhelm, and burnout. So we have episodes there 3 times a week. I would love it if you would join us there if you haven't yet. I'm also a certified master life coach. I am a certified neurological fitness trainer. And because of everything that I've told you guys about what I was experiencing 5 years ago and the change that I've experienced personally in the growth of my nervous system, in the healing of my body, I'm just so passionate about this work. You guys can probably tell, but I'm so excited to be able to share this with you today. All right, let's jump into it. So the number one key to superior results, whether it's in motherhood, right? Showing up as the mom we want to be, what we think our kids deserve from us, showing up in our marriage, success in our business, any part of our life, right? Sometimes we think that it's just mindset work, or we think it's discipline, or we think it's an act of like sheer just will and determination. And all of those things play a small part. But I'm here to tell you today that the one thing that nearly everyone overlooks is a regulated nervous system. That has to be the foundation. None of this other stuff is going to work until your nervous system is safe, healthy, and regulated. So there's so many people out there wanting to help, right? There's all these different self-help books. You can find podcasts, you can get mindset coaches and talk therapy, right? Traditional talk therapy. And all these things, in time, we've thought that those were the answers, but the research is actually showing that that's not what actually makes a difference if we want to experience change, healing, and transformation. If we want to resolve our burnout, if we want to not live in a state of constant stress, none of this stuff is the foundation. Because to learn, to grow, to heal, and to succeed at the deepest level possible, which is what I want for all of you, we got to work at the deepest level possible. And that is our nervous system. So let me explain to you a little about why that's the case, right? Mindset work. Man, you cannot turn around these days without hearing about mindset, right? I know for me, at least the algorithm and Instagram, like I'm constantly getting stuff about mindset. And mindset is important. Don't get me wrong. But I want to teach you about afferent nerves and the power of bottom-up processing. So in our bodies, 80% of our nerves, 80% of our nervous system is afferent. And that means that those nerves are sending messages, they're sending signals from our body up to our brain. So that leaves only 20%. That means that only 20% of the messaging going through our nervous system, right, sending all these signals, is coming from the top down, from our brain to our body. So this is why you can tell yourself to calm down, right? You can have a mindset that's like, I deserve to be calm. I should be calm. There's nothing to worry about. I'm not in danger. But then we still feel so much anxiety. And the reason why is because all of the messaging, 80% of it, coming from the body up, is telling our brains that we're actually not safe and we do need to be on alert and we should be worrying and we should be anxious. We can't tell ourselves these things. We actually have to show our body. It's also why you might feel like you do this mindset work and you're still feeling stuck, or you've read all of the books and you've intellectualized this new information, but you struggle to put it into practice. And maybe you get hard on yourself and you're just like, man, why am I so unmotivated? Or why do I lack so much discipline? Or why can they do it and I can't do it? And it's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's just that, imagine a tug of war, with 4 people on one side and 1 person on the other side. That's what we have here. It's 4 to 1. So the 4 people, that's the messages going from your body to your brain. They're going to win almost every time. And it's the same thing going on in the messaging in your body. So I want to teach you practices that can let your body feel safe, your body feel loved, your body feel secure. So it's sending those messages up to your brain. And then you have the mindset work and the body-based work working in tandem. And you guys, that is where the power is. Neurological fitness, it's my passion. It's the work that I do. It's still really new to most people. You guys are here. You guys are already on the forefront of this type of work. You're already an early adopter. And NeuroFit, which is a leader in this space, we're going to talk more about NeuroFit in just a minute, but NeuroFit, their data is showing that the early adopters to neurological fitness and incorporating neurological fitness strategies and approaches in their life are women. I know a lot of you guys attending today, a lot of my audience are women. It's people who are more intuitive, people who are more connected, people who aren't just stuck in their heads. Those are the people that tend to find such success and be early adopters when they incorporate a neurological fitness routine. Also, people who have been through real stuff. I know that you guys here, you've been through stuff in your life. I know it. I know the chronic stress that trauma causes. People who've been through serious challenges in life, neurological fitness has been such a breakthrough for them. And I just want to bring this to light too. I had a podcast episode a few, I think, months back, but my guest was Dr. Cara Goodwin. And she is the founder of this nonprofit called Parenting Translator. And what they do is they take parenting research that's come up in the last whatever how many years, and they synthesize it and break it down into small bite-sized pieces, and then they deliver it to parents. So parents can actually put this research, the findings of studies, all of this different scientific evidence that we have about parenting into practice. And she told me something that's so fascinating. She told me that on average, it takes about 17 to 20 years for research, published research, to reach its intended audience. Guys, 17 to 20 years, that's nuts. And for parents, like I think about myself, parenting research that's coming out last year, now I can't wait 17 to 20 years to know what's going on, what the science is showing, and what's going on in the research. My kids are going to be grown, they're going to be out of the house. I'm not going to need that information in the same way that I need it now. And the same is true with neurological fitness and nervous system regulation. 10 years ago, no one was talking about mindfulness. No one was talking about mindset work. The research was there, but no one was talking about it. And now, right, we can't turn around without mindset work or mindfulness practices. People are understanding the power that's within it. And the same is true for neurological fitness. You guys are early adopters, but I promise you this is going to blow up because people are going to start to talk about the power that's there when you have a regulated nervous system. And you're going to see in a few years, everyone's going to be talking about this because they've experienced it. So what is neurological fitness and why should you care? Neurological fitness is fitness for your nervous system. It's really simple. The same way that we think about physical fitness, right? Exercise, nourishing our bodies. The same way that we talk about mental health or emotional health. Our nervous system has a state of either health or unhealth. So when we talk about neurological fitness, we're talking about the state of our nervous system. And a lot of that work is based on neuroscience by Dr. Stephen Porges. He put forth in the mid-90s polyvagal theory. And polyvagal theory, I'm going to talk about it in the next slide. Once you guys understand this, it's going to be such a light bulb and aha moment for you because it really brings all of this work full circle. So we've probably seen memes or heard that like our thoughts drive our actions, right? Our thoughts drive our words and our behavior, everything is linked. But the underlying root of all of how we operate, how we see the world, right? Our mindsets, our paradigms, how we see ourselves, how we just function and operate day to day, it all comes down to our nervous system. Our nervous system significantly influences everything that we do. So as we talk about neurological fitness today, we started by going through all of those signs of dysregulation. As you grow in your neurological fitness, as you grow in regulating your nervous system, you'll notice that all of those signs of dysregulation start to dissipate. And these are some of the benefits that you'll start to notice that will come to light. You'll have improved mood and emotional balance. Like, can I get an amen to that? That is great news for all of us, because when we're feeling good and when we're feeling emotionally balanced, we can show up how we want to, right? Our perception of ourselves as a wife, as a mom, as a corporate woman, all of that matches what we're seeing in our day-to-day life when we're feeling balanced. Creativity, increased creativity. And I think as moms, we can really underestimate the value of creativity. I'm not just talking about art. I'm not just talking about like painting or drawing or dancing or these things. But when I talk about creativity, I'm talking about your ability to brainstorm and come up with solutions. Like, so often if your kids come to you and they're fighting about something, or they have this disagreement, and you just come forth and you're like, I've got this beautiful solution, and it works out and everyone goes on the way, and you're like giving yourself a pat on the back because it's such a proud parenting moment. That's creativity. And you want to be able to have access to that. Reduce stress, reduce anxiety, reduce overwhelm. I know that's a big part of why you're all here. Better sleep. For those of you who struggle with insomnia, if you struggle going to sleep, if you struggle staying asleep, if you wake up and you still feel exhausted, all of that is tied to dysregulation in your nervous system. Digestive function. This was a big one for me for so many years, probably for decades. I always struggled with gut issues. Not to be TMI, but like my stomach was jacked up. I was like IBS. I had all of these different pains and issues. I was so sensitive to different foods. I went gluten-free for 7 years because I thought that was what was causing all of the issues with my gut and all the pain I was having in my stomach. And what I realized is that once I was able to heal, balance, regulate my nervous system, my gut, it really started to heal. I went back to eating a balanced diet, a healthy diet, but I wasn't as sensitive to foods as I was 10, 15 years ago. And the last one is really the most powerful one. And that is that you have a greater overall resilience. And I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, so maybe you guys have heard me say this before, but I'm going to say it again because it's really important. The podcast is called the Calm Mom Podcast. That's because it rhymes. That's because it's catchy. It works for the podcast. But I just want to remind all of you that that is not the goal. As a mom, as a woman, as a human being, the goal is not to be calm all the time, 100% of the time. And if we're not calm, we're failing or messing up, or that's not how it works. That's not possible. It's not practical. That's an unrealistic expectation we would have for ourselves. What we want is we want a nervous system that is resilient. That means it can experience something that feels anxious or stressful or overwhelming, but because of its resilience, it knows how to regulate and come back into a state of calm, right? To return to a state of compassion and love and openness and all of the things that we get when we're feeling regulated. Okay. I also just want to comment really quick that at the end, when I finish here, I am going to open up the floor for Q&As. So if I'm going through some of this stuff and you guys questions are popping up or you're curious about things, jot down a question, or you can put it in the Q&A section of Zoom here now, and I'll reserve some time at the end to answer those questions for you. Okay, polyvagal theory. Guys, this is so important. So if you're daydreaming right now, come back to me. There are 3 distinct neural circuits. 3. The first one is our ventral vagal circuit. When we're operating in this circuit of our nervous system, that's when we're feeling open and connected and curious and loving and creative. That's where we want to be, right? That is the quote unquote calm mom space. The second neural circuit is our sympathetic nervous system. When we're operating in this circuit, that's when we're feeling anxiety. That's when we're feeling tense. That's when we're feeling just irritable and on edge. And then the final neural circuit is a dorsal vagal circuit. And when we're in this circuit, when we're operating in the dorsal vagal, that's when we're feeling really shut down. So we're feeling dissociated. We don't even feel like we're in the room or we're in our bodies. We're feeling drained. This is when you just find yourself mindlessly scrolling on your phone or zoning out to a show and you don't even know what's going on. Or I've experienced this, right? I leave work to drive home and I get home an hour later and I'm like, holy moly, I don't even know how I got here, right? I wasn't even like, I was just on autopilot. So when we're operating in the dorsal-vagal, it's a shutdown response. And these three circuits of our nervous system are constantly interacting with each other, right? One is a brake, one is the gas, and they're always trying to interact and keep us in balance between them. And what happens when we're dysregulated is that there's an imbalance in these neural circuits. So I want to teach you about the vagus nerve. This is really important. Maybe you guys have heard about this before, maybe not, but this is going to be really good for you guys to know. So there is this long central nerve that runs from our brain and it runs down and it connects to all of our major organs. So those three neural circuits that I just talked about, those exist in this vagus nerve. Now, in that vagus nerve, you guys can see it here, that big yellow nerve coming down, there is something called, it's a mechanism in our body, it's called the vagal brake. And the vagal brake is what allows us to shift between nervous system states. So it's what allows us to shift between a calm state, to a state of alert if we need it, or it allows us to shift from a really dissociated, burnt out state and come back to a state of regulation. So it's the shifter. It's the shifter. And that vagal brake, the stronger that it is, we refer to it as vagal tone. So the more toned your vagal brake is, the stronger that vagal brake is, the more precise it is. And the slower it is to transition. Now think about this for a second. What that means is that if you're triggered and you have a weak vagal brake, bam, immediately you're shifted into irritation, anxiety, anger, all of these things. But with the exercises that I teach, you can improve the strength of your vagal brake. You can improve your vagal tone, and there's much more space between stimulus and response, right? You don't shift so quickly out of a regulated state into a dysregulated state when you're triggered. The way I think about it is like imagine a train and imagine the conductor on the train. And imagine you get to a juncture where the train tracks are crossed, right? You can all imagine it. And it's the conductor that decides, bam, I'm going to shift this way, right? That conductor is acting as the vagal brake. I'm going to shift into calm and compassion and curiosity and connection. Or I'm going to shift this way and I'm going to shift into burnout and dissociation and numbing out. So each of those three circuits, it's the vagal brake that's responsible for shifting in and out of those states. That's why we can actually, through these practices, shift from one state to another because we just strengthen that vagal brake and that vagal tone. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the different states. So this is a diagram that was put together by NeuroFit. Again, I'll talk to you guys about that shortly here, but you can see the three main circuits are this yellow one here, the ventral vagal, this pink one here, the sympathetic, and the dorsal vagal here, this blue one. And you guys will probably notice, or you can notice, like, man, yeah, I see how I might be in different states, right? Either all different states in one day, or maybe I woke up in a particular state today. And then there's also these in-between states where you can get the benefits of the more positive state, if we were to put a label on it, and the benefits of the more negative state without becoming dysregulated. Okay, so let's talk about the things that have caused our vagal brake to weaken, which means that we are experiencing more stress, more anxiety, more overwhelm, more burnout, a dysregulated state really on the day-to-day. Chronic stress and your allostatic load. So, love my little diagram here. But this blue line that I've drawn here represents your stress level. So in the perfect world, right, if you were healthy and regulated, what would happen? This probably happens when you're a child, right? Is that there's a stressful event and your stress level goes up, right? Your body releases cortisol and adrenaline and all these different other stress hormones and chemicals to get your body into action to respond to the stressor. So your stress level goes up. And then you're given enough time and you're well resourced enough that you can come down, regulate, and return to that original baseline stress level. You make a complete recovery. And in the ideal, that's what we do, right? We're created to be able to respond to stress. Like if I see my toddler running towards a busy street, yeah, I want that system to become active, that sympathetic state, so I can run to the street, grab her, bring her back, and make her feel safe. There's value to that. There's a purpose to it. But what happens is that when we experience chronic stress, we don't have time to completely recover. So instead of getting to a complete recovery, bam, we get stressed again. But now this time we're starting to recover, and we're hit with another stressor. We're hit with another stressor before we can get all the way down, complete that loop, complete that cycle, release that stress, and bam, we're shot back up again in order to respond to the next stressor. So what happens is that we make an incomplete recovery. And when I talk about chronic stress, I think sometimes we can think of stress like, oh, I have a deadline at work, or, our finances have been really tight lately, and that's been super stressful. Yes, those are stressful. But also, this goes back, guys, to conception, infant, like when you were an infant, when you were a young child, when you were in grade school, like if you experienced bullying, if you experienced anything in your home that didn't allow your nervous system to feel safe, chronic stress, either with abuse or neglect, or just some sort of toxicity, some sort of lack of consistency as a child. If you were left to cry for long periods of time without being soothed as a baby, your stress cycle wasn't able to complete. You had so much stored stress in your body. And the thing is that we're not given the tools in the Western world, right, to release and complete that stress cycle. So we feel stressed. We don't have enough time to come all the way down and complete that cycle before, bam, we're hit again. And for those of you who are here, who are like myself, and your moms, your wives, you're running a household, maybe you're running a business, or you have a job that's really demanding, the stress is almost constant. I don't have to tell you that. So you can understand why your body's not able to return to that baseline level. And what happens is that over time, that baseline increases, right? You never get all the way back there. That stress actually gets stored in your body. If it doesn't release, if it doesn't complete that cycle, those hormones, the chemicals that are released, right? All of that stuff stays stored in your body. And that's why you start to experience muscle tension, gut issues, migraines, headaches. Your window of tolerance is getting shorter and shorter because all of this stuff is taking up space. It's taking a load on your body. I want to talk a little bit about your window of tolerance. When I learned about this was like mind-blowing for me because it's so powerful. All of us want to be able to do the things that are important to us, right? Without feeling stressed out or overwhelmed or burnt out, for that matter. We want to be able to be the mom that we want. We want to be able to run our home in a way that doesn't make us feel like, we're on the hot mess express. We want to be able to show up in our marriages. We want to be able to show up in our workplaces. We want to be able to show up in our communities and in our churches, like all the places that we're involved in. We want to be able to do these things because they're priorities for us, but we want to be able to do them without being stressed out. And the way to do that is to increase our window of tolerance, And this feels like some crazy secret I'm going to teach you, but you can actually increase. Like the reason why I can do so many things that I do these days and hold all of the space and have a crazy calendar is because I've learned through the practices that I teach, right, how to expand that window of tolerance. So let me walk you through these grids really quick. Okay. On the left here, you see a narrow window of tolerance. And that window of tolerance is depicted within this bracket. It's this regulated state of this green, yellow, and orange. These are the regulated states. So your window of tolerance here is fairly small, right? This little line I've drawn, again, is your stress level. So when we notice here, okay, we experience a stressor. Let's use an example of being cut off in traffic, right? We're driving somewhere, we experience stress, we're cut off in traffic. It's okay, we're still within our window of tolerance. Doesn't bother us. Let the guy in, right? Wave hi. We're still singing a song, talking to our kids, whatever, no big deal. We're able to regulate. We continue, we're regulated. Something happens and we're triggered. And this time it pushes us into this sympathetic state. And now all of a sudden we're outside of our window of tolerance. And the reason why is because that window of tolerance is so narrow that it doesn't take much to shoot us out above that window of tolerance into a dysregulated state. So life happens and it can continue to happen. Good things, bad things, triggers, stressors, life, right? Life will always keep on lifing. We have kids, we have partners, we have jobs. All of these things are stressful. Life will happen and we can still stay regulated as long as we're within our window of tolerance. But the minute we pop outside our window of tolerance, either above it or below it, that's when we find ourselves in a dysregulated state. So here something happens, bam, we're shot into the sympathetic, we're angry, we're irritable, we're edgy, high anxiety, we're worrying, right? The thoughts are ruminating. And then our body's like, oh, panic, overcompensates and shoots us all the way down into dorsal vagal. And then we're exhausted and we can't get up in the morning and we're shut down and we're burnt out and we have a really hard time functioning and showing up. But now look at this grid on the right. This is a wide window of tolerance. And you'll notice here that that window, right, the orange, yellow, and green states, you have so much more space there. So much more space for life to come at you without it throwing you into a dysregulated state. So same thing happens, right? You get cut off in traffic, no worries, I'm in my regulated state. I recover. Bam, my husband makes a comment, or I get a phone call, or whatever it is, that's some triggering thing, and it shoots me up. Notice it's shooting you up to the same level as when you had that narrow window of tolerance. But because you've now worked to make space in your nervous system and you've expanded that window of tolerance, now you're still in a regulated state. And that's why we can sometimes catch ourselves comparing our lives, our motherhood journeys, our kids, our work, our all this stuff to other people, right? And it's like, how does she do all this stuff and she seems so calm all the time, right? Or how is she so busy but she still manages to, like, I don't know, be the room mom, or like all of this stuff. And first, a lot of that is probably a lie going on up here, right, in comparison. But it could be because she has grown her window of tolerance and she has learned strategies and tactics to increase her capacity so she can hold more of what life is throwing at her without it throwing her into a dysregulated state. So what I do is I want to teach you guys how to increase that window of tolerance. We all want that, right? So there's basic habits that are involved with it. And then there's a lot of work in just releasing trauma, releasing stored stress, releasing stored emotional energy that we haven't allowed to complete that loop. And that's really what I specialize in teaching in. So some of the habits, like if you find yourself lacking sleep, I know as moms, this can be a real thing that sometimes we don't have control over. Lack of sleep, you'll notice it, right? This isn't like something new to you. You'll notice that if you haven't slept well, bam, you're feeling a little off the next day. You're feeling a little dysregulated. Same thing with your nutrition. If you're not taking care of your body by what you're putting into it to fuel it so that it can run as it's designed to and efficiently, if you're not working on that mindset stuff, you're going to find that you have a very narrow window of tolerance and you get dysregulated quite quickly. And then on the flip side, it's the opposite, right? When you're sleeping well, when you're feeling rested, when you're slowing down, when you're taking care of your body, when you're getting adequate nutrition, adequate hydration, when you're in a good mindset, then you find that your window of tolerance will widen. And then you'll find that you have the ability to regulate much more quickly. Okay, so what do we do about all of this, right? I know I've come at you guys with a lot of information here. You're probably growing in your awareness about how your body works. I hope for a lot of you that you're feeling like oh, there's a reason, right? There's a reason behind why I've struggled so much in this way, or why it's hard for me to show up in this way, or why I've been feeling so anxious or overwhelmed or irritable. Like no one wants to feel these things, right? And there's a reason. You're not broken or defective or doing everything wrong. It's not that you're not cut out for all the things you're trying to do. It's not that you're not cut out for motherhood or big, beautiful things, right? All the things that God's placed on your life, your calling, your purpose, you are absolutely cut out for those things. It's just that there's work and healing that still needs to be done in your nervous system so you can do all of that without it throwing you into a dysregulated state. It's not how you were created. You were created to have a really big, really wide window of tolerance, and I want to get you back there, right? Life has just gone in the way. I want to help strip some of that away for you so you can grow that window of tolerance and you can feel so much better and show up how you really want to in your life. So what do we do? If we're noticing all these symptoms of dysregulation, one, we develop interoception. And what that means is we have to become more connected to our body, the signals that it's sending us, right? This is all about body awareness. So when I talk about how I was having stomach and gut issues for years and seeing different doctors and trying all these diets and medication and all of this stuff, my body was trying to send me a message. It was telling me to slow down. It was telling me that I had some stuff that I probably needed to deal with. It was telling me that I was probably not being authentic in my communication and in my expression. And I was holding in a lot of stuff because I wanted to be strong, or I wanted to, whatever it is, whatever story I was telling myself. I was just out of touch with what my body was communicating. So first and foremost, we've got to get in touch with our body. And there's practices that I teach for that. Now we have to get really familiar with the different states of our nervous system so that we can identify what state we're in. Once we have the awareness, okay, I'm in dorsal vagal today. I see why I'm feeling so burnt out or shut down today, or it's really hard for me to focus today, right? Once we know where we're at, we can do something about it. Once you identify what state you're in, you can, with your vagal tone and your vagal break, the exercises that I teach, you can shift into that regulated state where you're feeling calm and compassionate and curious and all of these beautiful things. You have to learn how to balance your nervous system daily. These practices that I teach, the daily ones, are not long. If you want to shift the state of your nervous system, you can do it in 2 to 3 minutes a day. All it takes. These practices are so powerful. I do this every single morning. I take account of where I am and where I want to be, and then I do the exercises that I know work for me and my body to get me into the state I want to be in. And it's available for you too. And then you got to do some of that deeper work. There is stored stress in the form of traumas, just chronic stress, right? Emotional stuff we've been holding on to. And the more we're able to release that through movement and sound and breath, all things that I teach, the more we can make space. The more we can make space to let in the good so we can become more regulated. And that's the next one, right? To start discharging stored trauma, emotions, and energy. That grows your window of tolerance. And then the last thing is just habits. It's getting into really good habits that are supportive to your nervous system. Some of those are things you might think of, right? Things like moving your body, exercise. You probably don't need as much exercise as you think. It probably doesn't need to be as intense as you think for your nervous system to start healing. Adequate nutrition, but also things that we don't think of so often. Things like play. Are you incorporating play into your daily routine? Play is so important for the health of your nervous system. Moments of stillness, right? A lot of us like to have our quiet time, whether it's prayer or meditation or something, right? That is so powerful for the state of our nervous system to have those quiet moments. So I teach a lot of what these habits are that you can start to incorporate, and you'll see your nervous system will start to heal and your window of tolerance will start to grow.